What's up, everybody? How's it going? So I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and basically it's the very first death metal albums in my collection. The very first ones I remember that got me into the genre. And there's two I set aside that I heard first but didn't really get into it until the album I will show that got me into death metal. So 13 death metal albums, the first one's in my collection. In the background we're going to listen to one of them, and it's a badass motherfucker. Technically, this is the third or fourth death metal album ever bought. It's this one right here. It's Disincarnate, Dreams of a Carrion Kind, with James Murphy. And that riff in this track, and I can't remember, I cannot see it. I always wanted to say this was called The Stench of Redemption, but I know that's a Deicide song. That. Released in 1993, and that's the year I got into death metal. Now I think I've talked about this in other videos before. I did hear two death metal albums I can really remember first, and one of them I hated when I first heard it. The other one I thought was just basically a heavier thrash metal album, to be honest with you, back then. Didn't really have the term death metal at that point that I can remember. A lot of us would just call it like heavier Metallica and shit like that. So I'm gonna get with technically the very first death metal album I heard. Not the first one in my collection, and it's still an all-time favorite. And I think the reason why I held off so long in shooting this video is because I've shown these albums several times. But, you know, I like watching videos about people talking about their experiences and what got them into a certain metal genre. And this sounded like a great idea. I was just kind of kicking back. But this is actually my first death album I ever heard, was this one. Spiritual Healing. It's still my favorite. Oh, wait, hold on. James Murphy, which plays lead guitars on this one as well. So, yeah, very first one I heard, and I know somebody's going to say, you thought it was a thrash album. Like I said, I was young, didn't know any better. So, this one is still my favorite. And then the second that I remember hearing was this one, which I thought was utter garbage. Back then, I did not like the Cookie Monster vocals, is what I called it. Actually, my buddy played it, said, you gotta hear this shit, and he played it, and I said, turn that dog shit off. I know I've talked about that in other videos, but that was my honest opinion when I first heard this. Now I can honestly say It's not my favorite Cannibal Corpse album, but still a damn good one. I think my favorite would be Butchered at Birth, honestly, which was the album directly after this one, I believe. But anyway, I thought I'd get these out of the way. So, what got me into death metal was my buddy Richie Randall. And matter of fact, I was just talking to him about this yesterday. Richie Randall is in a band called Grey Puffer. And we used to be in a band together. And he picked me up for band practice one day. And he had some eerie fucking music playing. And it was on this album. And I've talked about it before. He was playing, I think it was Doomsday Celebration was on, and that real killer freaking synth work, dungeon synth is what I think whenever I hear it. It went into Day of Suffering. That was it. And I remember listening to that. We was on our way, and we live in Missouri, of course, driving the country roads. And something struck me about it. I was like, what in the hell are you playing? And he said, showed me the CD cover he had. And this is back in '93. So it was 2 years after this album was released. And I remember looking at the artwork and was just blown away. The font. And immediately fell in love with this album. It's still technically, it's my favorite Morbid Angel album. Always probably will be. Something about it just freaking blows my mind. Fall from Grace, that riff. Actually, I would go backtrack. The intro, I remember Richie saying it's a banshee screaming in the background. All that Trey's doing all that weird freaking guitar work, and you hear that scream in the background. It sounds like a banshee. And then went into Fall from Grace, and I heard that riff, that dun 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 dun. I thought that was the most epic riff I've ever heard in my life. And then guitar solos, and a lot of more things I like is the little synth work they put in this that make it real mystical, very mystical sounding. I love Desolate Ways, that acoustic guitar. It just sounds medieval. In Remembrance, I love how the album closes out with that piano. This is just an absolute and utter masterpiece. And I remember buying this. I bought this on cassette the first day, like maybe a day or two after. I think he recorded it he dubbed it on cassette for me, and I took it home, but I wanted the artwork. So I went and got this album the very next day, and I was utterly blown away. But this is it. This is the album. And that same day, I bought another album because the artwork. I go, this has got to be death metal. So this is actually I bought those on cassette. But this is actually the second death metal album ever in my collection. It was Immolation: Dawn of Possession. And I'm a huge Immolation fan. And this album, when I first heard it, I was like, it's okay. It's not like that Morbid Angel. And then the more I listened to it, the more and more this got unique. That opening track, Into Everlasting Fire, that riff, it's just utterly amazing. Despondent Souls, the title track, Dawn of Possession, Those Left Behind. This album is just an absolute masterpiece. And this is what, other than the Morbid Angel, these are the albums that got me into death metal. This one will be forever one I go to. My wife actually found this album for me because I've had I had this on CD forever, and I could never find it on wax. And then she ordered this. I think she got it on. I can't remember where she ordered it. My wife is amazing. She could find some shit. And then she found this copy for me. I think I still got the package somewhere. It's from France. The guy in France sent it to me. It's got the original artwork or the inner sleeve. I think this is a 2003 reissue, if I remember right, or C. But yeah, I'm getting off subject. Look at that fucking artwork. Amazing. So technically, I think this was the third one I heard. Richie Randall was playing this in the car on another car ride. And a lot of these I listened to on car rides driving around. 'Cause back then I didn't have a car, so Richie picked me up. We drove everywhere, and he was playing. He was really a big death metal fan, and he's what technically got me into death metal, playing these albums. So I already talked about this one. This is technically the third. The fourth one, Richie Randall, again, Vital Remains, Let Us Pray. So this would be the fourth one. And I remember the first track I heard on it was a pure unholiness. Blasphemous. This is a blasphemous album. One of the most blasphemous albums, in my opinion. And so it dealt with a lot of Satanism. Morbid Angel has a lot of like Necronomicon type demon mentioned in it. Immolation's more of a atheist, and this one's satanic as fuck. But I remember listening to this. I'm pretty sure was hanging out at Richie's house, and he had this playing. And I remember looking at it was on CD. He had a lot of CDs, and just looking at that artwork, I was just, this is amazing. I love that artwork. And then the more I listened to this, the more I got into it. Ceremony of the Seventh Circle. Man. Uncultivated Grave. Malevolent Invocation. Love it. I think this was released in 92. So, and a lot of these are going to be in the 91, 92, 93 era, since I got into death metal in 1993. Another one, I might have, yes, Malevolent Creation, Retribution. This is the first Malevolent Creation album I heard, released in 92. I remember hearing The Eye of the Apocalypse, and I think I bought this. I remember going to and just kind of going through cassettes, and I saw this artwork, and I was just, this has got to be death metal, and it was, and it is. It's not was, it is. But I remember popping this in, and the intro to the Eye of the Apocalypse came on, and I was just, fuck, this is a masterpiece. Another death metal masterpiece. Retribution, and that artwork is some of my favorites. But No Flesh Shall Be Spared. I love that song. The Coldest Survive. Monster, Mindlock, Iced. Systematic Execution, Slaughter of Innocents. Coronation of Our Domain. Can't say enough about this one. Fucking killer one. I'm gonna not name these after this. This is not in no particular order. I just know these were the first 13 after those first 5, I guess. But I remember Richie recording this one. It's I just fell head over heels from Morbid Angel, and I started picking up a lot more of their stuff. Yeah, I think I got Altars of Madness I found in the Walkman, and then I got Covenant because it was released in 93. And he said, well, check this out. And he said the drummer played in used to play in Morbid Angel. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'll check it out. And I remember Lake of Fire. I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome. I love the keyboards in this. And I remember that cassette, he dubbed it off for me. I couldn't find this actually in the wild at that point. And I wore that dub cassette out. And then I eventually got it on CD. But Lake of Fire, love that. Visions from Beyond the Grave is my favorite track on this one. BCAD, fucking awesome. Andromeda Strain, which is a really good movie. Droid Sector, Destroying the Manger. Basically, this machine goes back in time and kills Jesus in the manger. The Empire of the Sands. I fucking love that one too. You can actually hear some lips cracking in it. But yeah, another one. One of the first. Nocturnus the Key. And this one, another one Richie Randall introduced me to, Deicide Legion. I was talking to him yesterday and couldn't remember if it was the debut or this one. And he said it was Legion because that's the first one he got. And I remember playing it, and he had the cassette, and he put it in the tape deck and said, "Listen to this shit. It's like Slayer on steroids." And Satan Spawn, the Coco Demon, came on. Came on in those goats, and I was like, holy fuck, that gave me chills up my spine. And to be honest with you, I wasn't way impressed with this, to be honest with you. I went out and got the cassette, and it took a little time to get control on me, and then it became my favorite Deicide album of all time, other than Serpents of the Lights and different ones like that. But I believe it was Behead the Prophet, No Lord Shall Live was actually the very first Deicide song that got me into Deicide. Once I heard that song, that riff, I remember it was on side B on my cassette, and I play it, rewind it, play it again, and then all of a sudden the whole world of Deicide opened up like the gates of hell. So, released in '92, of course. Fucking killer album, y'all know. And, of course, 1993, we drove around, like I said. This is another one Richie Randall introduced me to. And he said, you gotta hear this shit. So, I remember we were driving around Joplin, I think heading towards Kansas, and he put this on. Yep, first Carcass album I heard was Heartwork, and it's still my favorite Carcass album. It will always be of the melodic stuff. Of course, I like Symphonies of Sickness and Necroticism. But this is the first one I heard, and this is the first one that just blew me away. Still blows me away till this day. Never gets old. Buried Dreams is the first track. It was just pummeling that guitar work. I love the guitar tone on this motherfucker right here. Then the title track, Heartwork. I remember watching the video on Headbanger's Ball, and I love the bass, that old style bass, and they're just sitting around just jamming in a room. A fucking classic. Death Certificate's another one. This Mortal Coil, Blind Leading the Blind. Fucking killer album. Fucking killer one. Carcass, Heartwork. And within that time, I remember seeing this artwork on I think it was a cassette I bought it on. And I didn't know anything about this band. I didn't know nothing about it. But I remember fucking loving the artwork, and so I picked it up. This is my favorite Pestilence album. It's the very first one I heard. I did hear, I think one of their tracks on a compilation album. But I remember putting this in, and all the little instrumentals in between the tracks. I love it. Bitterness, Twisted Truth, Darkening, Lost Souls, Blood, Land of Tears, Free Us from Temptation, Prophetic, Revelations, Impure Testimonies, Soulless, Mind Warp, and Sorrow. This is classic, in my opinion, and I love all their fucking shit. But this is the first one I heard, first one in my collection. Yes, Pestilence, Testimony of the Ancients. This one, I remember buying this cassette because of this artwork, and this is actually the very first Swedish death metal album I ever heard. And at the time back then, I didn't know they were from Sweden. I didn't know there was a scene over there that early. When I first started getting into death metal, but this definitely is my first Swedish death metal album, and it really opened my world up to Swedish death metal. Once I discovered that, and then I think I got Left Hand Path later, and Dismember and Grave and all those. But this one, of course, that artwork got me, and still one of my favorite Swedish death metal albums of all time. Still is. This album never gets old. And then, of course, the last one. I remember this album right here. I remember buying this on cassette. I love the freaking artwork. I know it looks kind of cheesy. It looks like this alien's getting sucked into an asshole. That's what I always thought. And back then, I didn't know these guys were deaf at one point. But I remember grabbing this and listening to this religiously. Dawn of Eternity. Every time I hear that song. Have you guys ever seen the movie The Gate? I think it was released in '87. It's about this kid. Basically, they open the gates of hell and these little demons come out and all that kind of stuff. But every time I hear this album, I think of that movie. And it's a killer one. I love Cryptic Realms, Chambers of Ages, From Beyond, the title track. But yeah, so this is still a classic to me. I don't care. I know I've heard people not like this album, and you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I think this is pure gold. Still one of my favorites. So hopefully you guys like my video. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I'll do thrash next. So that's the first 13. Hope I like this video. I'm gonna watch it later and make sure I like it. I really thought about this a lot. So the thrash one's gonna be a little bit more difficult because I can't remember really the order. I remember the very first 3, to be honest with you, and after that, back then, basically, when I heard an album and a band I really liked, I went on a binge and just started picking all their stuff up, like Metallica and Overkill and Anthrax and Slayer and all the Megadeth. So I think what I'm going to do is try to pick one album from each of those bands and try to formulate something that's close to that list. So, of course, we gotta remember that was back in 1980. I think it was 87 or 88 when I first got into thrash metal. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my video. Your response, I would love to see other people's albums that got them into their favorite genre. May do a black metal one too eventually. But anyway, y'all have a good one.